What is up, everyone? Coach Mike here, TRC Endurance Racing and TRC Performance Coaching. This is a race recap. It's a little delayed, but I did that on purpose from the national championships in Irving, Texas that I participated in or attempted to over a week ago. So, leading into that race, I was dealing with a couple of things. I don't make excuses. I do everything I can do to get to a start line. I am a former elite and a triathlon and cycling coach. So everything I do has a purpose. Uh, whether it's advertising, to be out talking to people and doing those sorts of things, and then I still on this end race at a very high level still. So in preparation for the national championships, I was supposed to race sprint, standard, and mixed relay, which was the first time that event had taken place, and I really wanted to be a part of that. Being the kind of the first folks to participate in something. So about 2 weeks prior to that, I was in training camp in Luray, and I've been dealing with some issues with my bike fit. I'm 6'3". I've always raced. I've raced for a long time. I've raced on a size 58, get the new bike, frame redesign, and that sort of thing. And it's just things are different, right? And so I went from a 58 to a 60. I've consulted a couple different fitters because each fitter has their own kind of approach and philosophy on how they fit, unless they're using retool and then they just put sensors on and they put you in the angles and dangles. So we couldn't pinpoint an issue of why I was having knee pain, consistent knee pain, never dealt with it. And so I was like, don't have time for this, fit it and get me going. So I went up to train in Luray. I was doing what I've done hundreds of times before a race: training, climbing, running off the bike, training, climbing, running, and all of those things. And I guess over the course of something minor, I'm not an adapter on the bike. The bike has to be fit. You couldn't pull a bike off, the car and me ride it and not have something going off in my head saying this isn't right, this isn't right. So I am definitely need it to be to the millimeter, not an adapter. And so, climbed, went off the bike for a run around the green belt there. Was doing 10K pace progressions, and everything went good. I was hitting the mark. I was trying to hit somewhere around 445, 450 for those. The next day I went to run, and it felt like someone had burned the outside of my leg apart, or some wild animal was biting me as I'm trying to run. So I couldn't unhinge my leg. Thought that was odd. So I kept, I would run until it would hurt. I would run until it would hurt. Sometimes it was 5 miles. Sometimes it was 6 miles. And then it became no more than 2 miles, no more than 2 miles. So I was like, okay. I decided to go to Texas anyways. Didn't really know what was going on. I assumed, I know my hamstrings are tight. I'm still recovering from a sacral fracture. Yeah, I have issues with my glute, mind connection, or whatever they're calling it. Gluteal amnesia, I guess is what the term is. And so, I have all these down the chain issues. We've been rehabbing. We've been doing all the things. Thought I was back. Won a race a couple weeks prior to that, and then went through my progression to prepare for a big race. And so I went to Irving early, as I normally do. I was out in the climate, feeling the wind from every direction that it could blow in Los Colinas, feeling every temperature, doing it at various times so I could feel what it may feel like on race day. That's just my preparation. And each time I tried to run, it was 2 miles, a mile, and so I started to get a little nervous that I wasn't going to be able to do the standard, which is the distance I prefer. Obviously, I prefer long course, and I will do these short races because they're fun and challenging, and I like that. aspect of it. So, every day, every other day, I was paying for mobile massages, mobile stretching. We were dry needling with stem. We were doing all of the things. I was foam rolling, stretching, all of the things, infrared, near infrared knee thing. I was doing everything to get ready for the race. The day before, uh, I felt like I was in a position. A lot of people see the reels that I post on Instagram at the Roaming Cyclist, and I was running. I ran 3 miles at a pretty good tempo after that final massage and stretch, and I was like, no pain, and I made the decision that I was going to race the sprint. I prepared my bike as I normally do, laid out the kit that I was going to wear, which was a new kit. It was all black. It was meant for last year's long nationals, which I never got to wear because of injury. And everything went well. I KT taped up. I had, for an extra added measure of kind of reassurance, I had an IT band strap that was putting pressure on it. So everything, race morning, went through my progressions that I would do mentally and physically. And I went and walked to transition because I like to be that close to a race. Racked my bike, got everything ready, went to the start, did a warm up, no pain. All right, here we go. So, I normally start up in the front, obviously. But in this case, I started further back. So if you see those videos of me starting, it takes a little while to see me. I did that on purpose because I didn't want to because this thing's in the back of my mind. Like, when is this going to act up? I have never DNF'd a race, and I'll preface that. Never. I have obviously won a lot of more races than I've lost. That's not ego. That's just how it is. And so I start the race. I start a little further back so I could ease into the pace, which was pretty hot right off the bat, which was fun. I was actually laughing. Everything looked good. Form looked good. Everything looked good. We've also been working on my run gait, strides per minute. Since the sacral injury, things have become disconnected, and my strides are down to like 155 when normally I'd be running somewhere 170 to 190 in that band. So that's real slow. That means I'm overextending, causing a lot of problems. And so we are still working on that as well. That takes months. So pace was hot right off the bat, made the turn, left turn, had run the course front and back on my bike. So I knew every turn, nook and cranny, crevice and crack of the run and bike course. I knew where I was going to make moves. I knew where I probably could not make moves. That is the bike racer side of me. Obviously, I try to mentally prepare for what I'm going to do. And I also help my athletes do the same. And then there were athletes there that I don't coach I was also helping give information because I was no threat, because I wasn't going to be in the standard. And I just feel like I want to help as many people as I can. With the information I have. I was in the Navy for 20 years. Don't be a senior man for a secret. I think another one of my friends mentioned a couple of days ago in their Instagram. That's something we did. You don't want to be the one that knows something and don't tell anybody, and then something happens and then it's your ass. So I still do that. I apply that to coaching. If I don't know something, I'll ask around to try to figure it out. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. And if someone says they do, you probably need to start asking yourself some questions. So I got through the first 5K. I think I ran it in 17:10, which was outstanding. I have not run. That is not my fastest, but I have not run that fast in over a year since the last long nationals because of what I had to deal with last year. And you can go back in previous videos to look at that. I'm not going to beat that horse. Get to the bike. I had decided not to have my shoes in the pedals like I normally would with the bands. So I put my shoes on in transition. I lost a little bit of time in doing that. We had decided the day before when I was practicing transitions that yes, it was faster to have the shoes and the bands, but the motion of me having to get that going, um, it added a lot of variables that could cause stress and strain to my IT band and hamstring. And so I decided to put my shoes on, not pro. I recognize that, but whatever. It's what I felt I had to do to put myself in the best position on the bike because obviously the bike is where I'm going to go to work. Immediately went to work on the bike. I think for the whole 12 miles, I averaged 320 watts and a cadence of like 105. So it was like definitely being back in a in a road race. It was draft legal, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Although since this was a new event, a lot of you guys don't know how to work draft legal, right? And so you think it's an individual race still. It's really not. There were pockets, especially in the front, where they were working together, pace lining, make your pull, get out, make your pull, get out. That's efficient. That keeps the pace up. There's no way I can catch that by myself. There's no way I can outrun a pace line behind me. That is just the nature of bike racing. So when I made my move, because we went out into the wind, we came back, with a tailwind. When I made my move at that turn, no one came with me. Uh, I guess they thought they were playing race tactics. Maybe they didn't think anything because it didn't seem like anybody knew what they were doing as far as draft legal went. I was pissed. So now I'm out in no man's land, 33 miles an hour, pushing 360 watts by myself. Recipe for something not good to happen when I have to run off the bike. I was pissed the whole bike because of that. On the final lap, I kept pointing to my back wheel, get on my wheel, and they just either they were thought I was going to burn out, which I'm going to tell y'all right now, I will never burn out during a bike. I may get tired, but my power won't drop down to such in a 56 mile or a 12 mile, it's not going to drop down where it's going to be an advantage to you. I'm just going to say that. I started as a bike racer. My FTP is exceptionally high still, even though I'm going to be 40 this month, which is horrible to say, I guess. But I've broke the threshold. But, my bike power is still up. And, just as a word of advice, when you're in draft legal, you guys need to work together. Establish a pace line. Make your pull, get out. Make your pull, get out. That's efficient. It's bam, 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 bam. Stay on the wheel in front of you. Don't cross wheels. If that can be my coaching advice, to you, if it's draft legal, you got to get in there, got to get in the pace line, get in the draft. Make your pull, get in the back, conserve energy because you're going to be pulling at whatever. For me, it'd be 340 watts. I'd be pulling at 30 miles an hour, right? And so as I come back, I'm at 100 watts at 30 miles an hour because you see how that works. So you move up, you move up, you move up. If someone would have established that line with me, we would have definitely, because I was closing the gap to the front group, we would have definitely closed or almost closed that gap. So work together. It is an individual race. If you have a fear that you don't run well off the bike, well, you need to practice that. But don't hurt, the process in a draft legal situation. Right, we're all competing against each other. But at the end of the day, when it's draft legal, there is a certain amount of work that you can share to put you and myself in a position to come off the bike in a good position, right? If you get into transition ahead of the faster groups and you have a kind of a time barrier, you just run and hang on as long as possible if you don't feel like you're a good runner. Now, if you don't feel like you're a good runner, you probably need to look at your training. There's something not right there. You can become an efficient runner. I'm not going to say you're going to, if you don't want to run 4.5-minute miles. I believe everybody's capable of doing anything if they're trained properly, if they're coached properly, etc. But if you have this mental barrier that you're not a good runner, you're not going to be a fast runner, you have, there could be physical limitations, obviously, but like if your mental limitation is that, it's always going to be that. So stop thinking that way. That's what I tell my athletes. I have a psychology degree. Obviously I've trained hundreds of people in the Navy as a senior chief, and so I am the reinforcer, right? When you start getting negative, that negative thought can break down the whole process. It can put you in a hole that takes a very long time to get out of. I know that. I was there last year, and it took me a long time to get out of it. I'm saying that from experience. So you come off the bike. I got into transition. I was already out of my shoes as normal. I'm running across. Grass was wet. I was laughing about that. It was cold. Racked the bike. You know, got my shoes on. Second, it was a long transition as how they had that set up, right? And so, you know, that second transition was bam bam. My second transition is I always try to keep it 15 to 20 seconds, then I'm out. Even in long course, 15 to 20 seconds and I'm out. Um, Especially if I feel like I'm behind. Even when I'm winning, I always say you're behind, right? I always race with that mentality. There's no, give in. All right, we need to sit back and, coast into the finish line. That is never going to happen. I act like I am always behind. And sometimes I've had 12-minute gaps and those sorts of things, but I've always raced all out with that, kind of mentality. So the second run was 2.2K. As I came out of transition, everything's good. I felt good. Usually always run faster off the bike, obviously, because I'm warmed up. And so as I made that left turn out of the outbound chute, and I got a little bit down the road, I started to feel that telltale, like, for lack of a better word, oh shit, I think we're gonna have a problem. And so as I moved down the road towards the first, like, water table, and where there was an official, it was bam, and it locked up. And I was told, I don't know, I did not, I have checked nothing other after this happened in the race. I was running third or fourth overall with the podium, and like the person who won. I was in that mix, in the age group. And so, you know, that's hard to swallow for me. And I tried everything I could to get going. People were talking to me. I could hear them saying, "Hey," and in my mind, I was saying, "Hey, it's only 2 miles. This is a warm up. It's only 2 miles." And my knee would not unhinge, so I could not run. It was excruciating. If I could have finished that race, I assure you, I would have finished it walking. But uh, I chose to race another day and not cause any more injury. There is some fraying and tears in the IT band. And because of the issue, I have tendonitis in the hamstring and quad. And it actually became so tight at one point it's frayed my tibial plateau cartilage. But all of that will heal. And so I decided to withdraw. It's a tough pill for me to swallow. I have never DNF'd before. Mentally, it was a defeat. And, you know, how it's hard at that point to separate the athlete and the coach. And, the coach would say, "Hey, it's okay. You started, you tried, you gave it everything you could. Today wasn't the day. It didn't work out, but you tried." I mean, and it was a win for me to get to the start line. It was a win for me to make it, through, the run one, transition one, bike, and transition two, to be in a position where I could have won the age group national. And, you know, that long walk back to the finish line, I looked at it, I memorized it, and I kind of told myself, feel this feeling. You don't want to feel this feeling again. So we need to make a lot of changes when we come back to Virginia, which I did. And you know, a week out now, I have not run. I've started strength again. I'll see the run therapist next week, and I've been riding my bike. Power's up, power's great. Bike fitness is back. Um, you know, but the run's going to take a little more time now, obviously. Uh, so we need to do things right this time. My next goal is long nationals in December at Clash Daytona, and I will be doing some races to work up to that, and a couple triathlons. Um, to keep the run volume down because my run volume gets up pretty high for a long course, championship. And that's I'm a big diesel engine. That's what needs to happen. So the race didn't go the way I wanted. I dropped out of the standard obviously the next day because there was no way I wasn't going to go through that again. And then on Sunday I was supposed to do the mixed relay, and the thing in my mind that kept playing was, okay, it's okay to fail yourself, but don't fail a team. Don't fail a team. And I did not feel I could get ready in time. Even though it was a 3/4 of a mile, 4.2 mile bike, 3/4 of a mile, that's nothing. And I didn't feel I could get ready. So I went to the tent, talked to the race director. We got a free agent, and he went into my place. I was out there with them every step of the way, early in the morning, etc. I helped, keep them going during the relay. Helped where I could. Paced up and down like a cat. Wishing I was there. I said that a few times. I said I wish I was out there. I could have, but woulda, shoulda, coulda. I wasn't. They did great. I was really happy. I met a lot of great people in Texas. Met a lot of great coaches, collaborators, which I think we need more of in triathlon, not like stovepipe. And so I really appreciate, you know, the relationships I established there. I bought the Nix sweat sensor because I'm really always interested in improving, every aspect of training, sweat analysis, sweat loss, electrolyte loss. That plays a big role in how you can train and how it diminishes your performance as you dehydrate, which is good to know. I'll also be adding the Nodio CDA sensor for aerodynamic improvement because that's my thing. So, all of these things are going to be added to my coaching business, which I'm excited to offer. Because any little CDA improvement is a watt savings that you won't be expending, and you'll be going just the same amount of miles per hour or more. That's why my position is so aggressive. I push less power, but I'm going 30 miles an hour. So I'm able to run the way I am in the half, which is like a 1:15 half marathon off the bike. That was at a hilly course, so I don't know what it would be flat out in Daytona. I'm assuming it will be faster if I'm 100%. Um, so I'm adding all these things to the triathlon and cycling side of the business. I've reestablished the triathlon club and the racing team, and those guys are out. They've been racing. They've been doing great. And I'm excited for all of the things that are happening with my coaching business. You know, and I'm excited to get back out on the road and start training. But first, I need to mind my foundation, and we're going to be doing that over the next couple weeks. I was scheduled to go on travel this week to Chattanooga, and that unfortunately is not going to be possible. I'm not going to go into detail about the reasons to that. And then triathlon, and then Bangor, Maine for Speedhound, and then off into for a month or so in Florida to train, and then, you know, a race in August up in the mountains, my favorite place. So that's going to be it for me. This was sort of a 25-minute video, longer than I wanted to do, but there was a lot of aspects of this race that I wanted to kind of touch on and get into. I haven't done a video in a while, and I'm going to try to get better at doing that, especially now as I'm testing new things. The sweat analysis, which I've worn once, and I'll offer my feedback at some point on that. The Nodio, when I move forward with that, when I test that on myself, I always test on myself before I put into use with clients. If you are a triathlete interested in triathlon coaching, my specialty is cycling and running, and I do coach the swim as well. But if you want to be a stronger cyclist, time trialer, and runner, I'd ask you to, reach out. I'll have all the information down below, on my website, my contact information. Reach out for a free consult. Listen to what I have to say. 9 times out of 10, once someone makes that contact, they sign up with me. I kind of live in a little bit of an interesting area here in no man's land. So now I'm trying to do everything I can to kind of get out there, as I'm making the, full transition, and I'll still have the cycling team and the cyclists. But most of my focus is going to go into triathlon. And at some point I'll have to add another coach, to share that workload. But if you want to get better as a triathlete, I'm not saying that you want to be elite. You have different goals. Your goal could be to finish. Your goal will be PR the swim, the run, whatever your goal is. I can help you get there, guaranteed. Most of the client feedback, and I'll start adding that to my website, is I wish I would have done this sooner. It's been outstanding, only been a couple weeks in structure, and it's so much more than just training. It's like I am there 24/7. There's no caps on that with me. If you text me, I'm gonna text you back. If you email me, I'm gonna email you back. 24/7, 365. I believe that's what it was. That's what it's like when I was in the Navy. I was never off as a senior chief, and I don't feel like I'm off as a coach. So that's my plug for that. TRC Performance Coaching. I'll have the website and information down below. Reach out, have a conversation, see if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, they like it. So that's going to be it for me. If you have any questions, drop them down below, and I'll answer them about whatever. People ask me all kinds of questions. Where can I ride in Virginia, etc. Drop them below. Sorry for the long video. The next one will be shorter. I assure you. That's it for me. I'm Coach Mike, and I am out.